Okay, I've been talking to some people, and now I made things easier for them. I was explaining to penalties for conspiracy against rights under the color of law, showing them how they're living under the color of law, and people, they said they talked to their lawyers, and their lawyers said this or they said that. So I told them about letter of the law. It refers to a strict literal interpretation of statute, rule, or contract following its precise wording that rather than its intents or purposes. This approach emphasizes adherence to the exact text, often ignoring the broader underlying meaning of the spirit of the law. But I always cite the letter of the law so that in the spirit of the law we all see, say, and hear the same thing. And so there's no real purpose in violating the letter of the law. So penalties, sorry. So I showed them this. Violating the letter of law, strict literal interpretation can result in severe penalties ranging from hefty fines and civil liability to the criminal prosecution and imprisonment. Penalties vary by jurisdiction and offense, often including probation, junctions, restitution, or for repeated violations, penalty charges. Criminal penalties, see, financial fines, civil liabilities, injunctions and orders, record of consequences. So there's penalties for violating the letter of the law. So I told them, so they have to go by the letter of the law. Them not, there's penalties for them violating the letter of the law, which leads to, right, disinformation. Disinformation is deliberate, often covert spread or false or misleading information to cause harm, influence opinions, or create distrust. It differs from misinformation by being intentional. Key tactics including using doctored photos, deepfake videos, emotional manipulation, or fabricated content, or amplified by AI. Okay, so disinformation is illegal. So, sorry, my hand. Penalties, civil fees, content removal, criminal charges involving imprisonment, particularly when false information threatens safety, election integrity, or reputation. Common penalties include fines, platform bans, demonetization, false information or hoaxes. See, so you could just say lawyers. Okay, that was a good question. So that's what I'm using against landlord's lawyer, because lawyer is supposed to be telling the landlord, hey, all this stuff this guy's asking you to fix, from all these water leaks and this structural damage and these electrical problems they're having, and you know, the toilet needed to replace, the sink, the tub, the whole plumbing. The guy that came here to replace the sink, and he said it's not just the faucets that have to replace, but the where the water goes, the drainage that needs to be replaced. The whole building, he says, it's just old, it's antiquated. That's why there's rust in the water. That's why there's that black stuff coming out the pipes. But the lawyer, every landlord, they keep changing hands every couple of years, just so nobody has to do that. But legally, that's called a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. So he may only get fines and no prison time for not doing that, but his lawyer not telling him he has to do that and him not doing it clearly shows a conspiracy to deprive me of my rights to, livable, and habitable conditions. Right now I'm living under, I have to live with these health risks, the black mold, structural damage. I'm worried like crazy about, electrical fires. So, let's see. Lawyers who lie face severe consequences, including disbarment, suspension, or censure by state bar disciplinary authorities for violating rules of professional conduct. Criminal charges like perjury, fines up to $10,000, or prison sentence up to 5 to 10 years can apply if lies occur under oath or in fraudulent documents. So sometimes people say I talk too much, but see, I'm just it's impossible just when you violate the oath, that there's penalties for that, and I'm just showing you everything they're legally obligated to do behind the oath. That's all. So, so you can even ask these simple questions, which I wound up doing. Searching for people on the internet trying to answer their questions, and as a layman, I like to keep it in layman's terms, so I took their simplified questions and put it in the search engine, and there you go. Penalties for a lawyer lying. Okay, that's disinformation, which is illegal. Okay. And that's what they do when they violate the letter of law, and that's illegal. Okay, see, these are requirements of the oath. When lawyers take the oath requires them to follow the rules of professional conduct. It's impossible to violate one rule without you violate one rule, you wind up violating multiple rules. And if that's misconduct, and reporting misconduct is mandatory in both the rules of professional conduct and the code of judicial conduct. Nobody citing your attorney for ineffective assistance of counsel for violating those rules. That's misconduct. Failure to report misconduct is misconduct because reporting misconduct is mandatory in both rules and the codes. And since nobody's reporting misconduct, gives you conspiracy against rights under the color of law, is what you saw what I was doing when I first opened this up, when I was explaining to people about the legal obligations of all lawyers and judges. And it starts with the oath, and not living up to the oath, which is their constitutional duty and your constitutional right. So starting there, that's a deprivation of rights, not living up to the oath. And then, nobody locking them up for not living up to the oath creates conspiracy against rights under the color of law. I mean, no matter which way you turn, no matter which way you look in the legal system, nobody's living up to, not just the legal system, but all your public servants. From the popo to the president. and it's not just, it's a bipartisan thing, not living up to the oath, to be honest with you. That's why I'm apolitical. I just attest that I'm voting for the lesser evil, and still the lesser evil is evil if they're not living up to the oath. So remember, start there. Penalties for violating the oath, and then, for lawyers and judges, in the Constitution, they all took an oath to see to it that you have effective assistance of counsel, which is described in the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. It's described in the rules and the codes, the rules of professional conduct, code of judicial conduct. Okay, without effective assistance counsel, you didn't get a fair trial. Okay, without a fair trial, due process didn't exist. And in criminal cases, did you get that quick and speedy trial? And it's not just in criminal cases for just a quick and speedy trial, because if you go into the rules of professional conduct, it would be competent to be diligent in expediting litigation. In the preamble in both the rules and the codes, it explains to you that the judges and lawyers are supposed to do their, and handle these cases in a timely fashion so as not to create a mental and financial burden on we the people. I can go on I'm sorry, people, I do mean to take up your time, because as the forefathers wrote in the Declaration of Independence, it is not just your right, but your duty to remove these usurpers. They said, what was it about? Usurpations of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have the right and the duty to remove these people from office. And I don't care what party you feel bounded to. How about the oath or the Pledge of Allegiance? That's where I stand. When I pledge of allegiance, it was to we the people. End of story. I take no political sides. I'm just trying to get people to get things constitutionally correct. If things were ever politically correct, they would be constitutionally correct. And you can hold me to the letter of law on that, as I will you in any court of law. Okay? Remember, look at attorney discipline, fraud. Them telling you what you read don't mean that is lying. That's violating the letter of the law, which there's penalties for that. That's disinformation, which there's penalties. I don't mean to laugh. I'm going to take a break because I want to start swearing, because I ain't got nothing but love for all of y'all, all of you. When it comes to we the people, my people, that's who I pledge allegiance to. And I find it disturbing that since it was written, nobody's lived up to the law of the land, the rule of law. In a nation of laws, the rule of law is king. For king and country, and to whom we took a pledge allegiance to, we the people. You may not know my name, but you'll always know who I am. I am we the people. That's what you should be telling yourself. You're supposed to be saying that, not me. Jesse Jackson said, I am somebody. I'm taking it a step further. I am we the people. Can you say that? This is who I am. You took an oath to me. That's your legal obligations. You took an oath of servitude. You took an oath to me as we the people. That's who the hell I am. I am we the people. And hold all your politicians to the basic obligations of public service, please. Please look it up. I did a video on that, the basic obligations of public service. Nobody's doing that. There's a lot of things I talk about that nobody's doing. One man alone can't do it, and I've been doing it. Nobody answers me. They quit answering me. They just don't. I only got a couple answers. One from the FBI, another from the ARDC, Attorney Registration Disciplinary Commission. FBI forwarded my complaint, conspiracy against rights under the color of law, to the Department of Justice. And the Department of Justice I'm still waiting on, and that's been since the mid-90s. So I know what you're going through. I've been there, and I don't want what happened to me to happen to you. That's all, simple as that. All right. If I were any of your politicians, if I were anybody that took the oath from the Pope to the president, I would always put you first. Military, they say I got your six. I got your six. I'll stand by your side, and just talking about this isn't advisable, especially in this day and age. But, you are my people, we the people, who I pledge allegiance to. When I pledge allegiance to that flag, I pledge allegiance to what it stood for, to serve and protect. Thank you. Good night.